Hey everybody, we now return to your regularly scheduled Generation 3 starter programming. It's Sceptile time, another one of those weirdo Pokemon whose second stage is the coolest version. But hey, I mean, that's not entirely unrealistic, right? Some of us did peak in high school after all. But you know Sceptile looks like he's got his life together. He's the sort of guy who does prematurely bald, but has the guts to actually shave the whole thing off and look good doing it. He knows what he's about. Ash's Sceptile even had a twig in his mouth that made it look nonchalant all the time. Actually, come to think of it, he's had that since he was a Trico. And hey, that Trico evolved into one of Ash's most powerful Pokemon in the Hoenn region. But anyway, does Sceptile being powerful hold true for competitive Pokemon? Let's find out. How good was Sceptile actually? And in this video, we'll be talking about these competitive formats. Sceptile is one of those Pokemon where the stats don't exactly match the image, at least to me. All of Sceptile's Pokedex entries talk about how fast it is, and a 120 base speed backs it up. It just looks a little bit more lumbering than that in this Gen 3 sprite. But as we know from the blue doofuses, looks can be pretty deceiving. Anyway, Sceptile's speed and special attack probably make you think it was supposed to run a special sweeper set. But Sceptile's move pool was the culprit here. It only had 5 non-grass type special moves aside from Hidden Power, which were Crunch, Pursuit, Dragon Breath, Dragon Claw, and Thunder Punch. The coverage provided by these moves is pretty wonky. Type-wise, they were great, as literally nothing would resist the combination of Electric, Grass, Dark, and Dragon coverage. But with no boosting move and the fact that most of those moves had pretty mediocre base powers, you probably weren't going to gain too much momentum. And you lacked attacks to hit potential threats like Blissey and Salamence. The attacking versions of Sceptile that did exist thus spec mixed purely out of need for more power. Leaf Blade, Thunder Punch, and Hidden Power Ice provided a bit more of a solid core, giving ways to deal with the 4x Ice Weakness dragons, while Focus Punch could threaten Blissey and Snorlax on the Switch with minimal investment. Another option to become a sweeper more threatening if you left it unattended was using Sceptile's one viable boosting move, Swords Dance, which could potentially turn its mediocre attack into, well, less mediocre. Brick Break and Hidden Power Flying were still disappointingly low base power attacks to use. So faced with no way to boost its special attack, what did Sceptile do? Well, it turned to berries, like any self-respecting Pokemon in need of a move pool boost. Endeavor plus Sub Pataya was a dastardly set, as without some incredibly smart play from your enemy, Sceptile's natural speed all but guaranteed it was going to get a Substitute and an Endeavor off before killing you with its boosted special attack. After that, it wasn't hard to switch into something that could kill it off, but it would almost certainly take something down with it. So we've gone over all the attacking sets, and they were all okay. Again, no special boosting move. But what if we broadened the definition of a boosting move? After all, isn't boosting your HP sort of the same thing? So it was with that Sceptile found its true calling in Stall of all things. The same speed that made Sub plus Pataya such an aggravating combination meant that Sceptile was probably the best SubSeed Pokemon in the game. You would almost always get the Leech Seed up, and provided they weren't chunking you too hard, your Substitute would be good to go too. This set did particularly well against some of attacking Sceptile's biggest annoyances, like Blissey, who got utterly wrecked by this set. Max special attack investment was kept because this set was about speed and exploiting switches. Being able to predict and fire off a Leaf Blade on the Switch was a huge momentum booster. Hidden Power Ice or Fire were there to deal with Salamence or Skarmory, and this set could prove a huge annoyance, although it struggled with other boosters who could power through it. Or of course, Grass types, who weren't affected by Leech Seed at all. Sceptile's biggest problem was that Grass wasn't a great attacking type in Gen 3. The meta was swarmed with things that resisted it, like Metagross, Salamence, Jirachi, Gengar, and Skarmory, and either Steel or Dragon would wall Subseed depending on the hidden power type. Sure, Sceptile could deal with Tyranitar and Swampert, but it just didn't match up super favorably against the top Pokemon because of Grass's low power moves as a type and the resistances. And Sceptile's special attack was good, but not great. If a fire type showed up, Sceptile was especially screwed. With a special boosting move, it's quite likely it would have done well for itself because it could muscle through things that beat out its stab. But as is, it just couldn't quite climb to the top and ended up in borderline. The physical special split was kind to Sceptile, who had multiple hard-hitting special attacks, such as Focus Blast and Leaf Storm, which were bestowed on Sceptile as moves got reworked in general. Combined with Life Orb, Sceptile's special attacking set looks like it's got a little bit more bite. Leaf Storm, Dragon Pulse, Hidden Power Fire, and Focus Blast made for the same great coverage it had, but with more kick in its step. Only dedicated tanks, like Blissey or Snorlax, could really take a hit, and while Heatran was a threat, many versions ran some attack IVs and Earthquake to be able to one-hit KO it after Stealth Rock damage. And if you were especially scared of Life Orb damage or something, SubSeed still worked pretty well. Grass Knot and Energy Ball gave just a smidge more damage to threaten water types, while Hidden Power Fire and Hidden Power Ice stayed in the backup slot for the same reasons. It's worth mentioning this set had specific IVs and EVs. The IVs to maximize Leech Seed healing, and the EVs for specific speed points against threats like Choice Scarf Tyranitar. Unfortunately for Sceptile, it wasn't the only thing that got new toys. Yeah, you might be outspeeding Scarf T-Tar, but what about other Scarf Revenge killers? It was here that Sceptile's own poor defenses came to life. Most strong neutral hits would decimate it, meaning the threat from Scarf Pokemon was high. Heatran in particular was a nuisance, as any version of Sceptile without Earthquake or Focus Blast would straight up lose, although some Scarf versions would outspeed a SubSeed set that was already set up. Scizor was a huge problem, as it only feared Hidden Power Fire on the switch and packed an answer for every option Sceptile had. U-turn for a super effective attack that gained momentum, Pursuit predicting a switch, or Bullet Punch for a priority move that would likely KO. Speaking of Bullet Punch, priority moves were not great news for Sceptile. It was trapped in this weird stat space, not strong enough to run a Scarf set, meaning its high speed will let it beat anything unboosted, but lose to anything with the speed boost because of its low defenses. As such, it dropped a tiny bit to underuse, though it still saw some overuse play. In underuse, Sceptile had a whole lot more options, like its old Mix Attacker set or even a Choice Spec set, but it didn't have quite the gusto to pull those off in overuse. As I'm sure you can imagine, power creep for a Pokemon already struggling with power was not great. It meant more Pokemon that could abuse priority or a Scarf, as well as just a ton more Pokemon that Sceptile really didn't want to face, like Hydreigon, Garchomp, the Laddies, and Kyurem. The SubSeed set became pretty unviable in overuse, as the amount of Pokemon that could potentially outspeed you was a lot higher, and any hit meant death. Hey, I've gotta hand it to the sprite artist though. At least Sceptile looked like something that moved fast and would get toppled now, as opposed to the weird dinosaur hybrid it was in Gen 3. Its color also changed a bit to be darker green, you know, these are just things I noticed. Anyway, with SubSeed gone, Sceptile's only option was to hit fast and hard, and that's what it tried to do. Its set was all but identical to its Life Orb set in Gen 4, although Dragon Pulse was dropped. You were probably gonna want Hidden Power Ice or Focus Blast anyways in those situations, and losing hard to Steel types wasn't a great idea. This set was a great revenge killer for Pokemon like Keldeo, Tornadus, and Thundurus T, and luckily for Sceptile, it matched up well against 3 of the most common weather inducers, Politoed, Tyranitar, and Hippowdon. But its weaknesses were many. It's unfortunately true that Grass just isn't an incredible attacking type on its own. Too many Pokemon in overuse beat Sceptile straight up. Aside from the other threats I mentioned, any priority user would beat it, and it's always had to pick between losing to Dragon or Steel types. Dragonite deserves a special mention here for being able to boost and hit with priority. Sun teams also messed it up hard, as did opposing grass types like Celebi or Amoonguss. Finally, with SubSeed gone, Special Walls had no fear of coming in and putting a halt to its efforts. Sceptile actually dropped all the way to rarely used, though its niche as the fastest non-legendary grass type and its good special attack let it at least fit a niche to make occasional ventures into the higher tiers. Luckily for Sceptile, Gen 6 gave it the dual typing it had always wanted to fit in with its fellow Gen 3 starters, Dragon. That 4x weakness to Ice was honestly negligible, as Mega Sceptile was likely getting KO'd by any strong Ice move anyways, and it enjoyed the resistances. More than that though, Mega Sceptile enjoyed the boost to its base stats, 25 attack, 10 defense, 25 speed, and a huge additional 40 special attack. It also got a nice ability in Lightning Rod, giving Sceptile one more way to boost its special attack, and it really needed all this stuff. Regular Sceptile fell into the never used ban list, now effectively outclassed by Contrary, Superior, and other attacking grass types. At 145 base speed, Mega Sceptile was the fastest dragon type in overuse after Mega Evolution. This allowed it to effectively revenge kill the scores of dragons populating the tier, such as the Laddies, Garchomp, and Mega Charizard X. Only Mega Altaria and its fairy typing stimmied it. The addition of another stat was something Sceptile had been begging for ages, but let's be honest, in most cases you were spamming Leaf Storm. Without Leaf Storm, Sceptile's non-boosted 145 special attack would be suspect, even lower than regular Sceptile's Life Orb output. But with such a devastatingly powerful move, Mega Sceptile was able to pretend it was one of the premier special attackers, at least until the special attack drop happened. The other moves were standard fare, Earthquake for Heatran and other steel types, especially effective with the patch on attack, and Hidden Power Fire or Focus Blast for the other steel types. 4x resistance to water meant Mega Sceptile was actually a great threat to bulky water types, although it did fear the potential Ice Beam, and Lightning Rod made it a check to electric types, who feared Earthquake or just a huge Leaf Storm. Mega Sceptile also had the option of running a substitute set. This time though, the draining move was different. Giga Drain provided damage and recovery, while Dragon Pulse and Focus Blast made for coverage. This set eased prediction and made it harder to beat Sceptile simply by tanking a Leaf Storm and exploiting the special attack drop. While the addition of the dragon typing didn't mean too much against ice types, since Sceptile was weak to them anyways, it did mean fairy types beat Sceptile straight up. Mega Altaria had free reign against Sceptile, and Mega Gardevoir could beat it as long as it didn't tank a Leaf Storm. Bulky fairy types like Sylveon or Clefable did even better, as they never feared taking a hit too much and were free to set up. Flying types also did well, as Mega Sceptile's unboosted special attack started to show when forced to use a move that wasn't Leaf Storm or super effective. As always, opposing grass types destroyed it straight up, especially its fellow Mega starter Venusaur, and other special walls like Chansey and Blissey still walled it. But in the end, it was still the revenge killers who were Sceptile's biggest problem, a problem big enough that Mega Sceptile found itself in underuse, even after all the help it got. Talonflame, Mamoswine, Weavile, Choice Band Scizor, the list goes on. Though the amount of purely scarfed things that could beat it was slightly lower, it was still quite high. Again, a Pokemon that had a niche as a fast grass type, but not a niche large enough for it to find itself in overuse. And as for doubles, regular Sceptile pretty much never had any notable placings in doubles. The combination of its poor typing and bad defenses meant it was easily exploitable, and grass types are generally better at supporting Pokemon in doubles. However, Mega Sceptile did have notable placings in 2015 on Keon Spy's team at VGC 2015 Netherlands Regionals. That's a +1's team at a California Winter Regionals placing 5th, and Yuri's team during the Italy 2016 Nationals for VGC, also placing within the top 8. Unfortunately, other than the placings themselves, we don't know much about those specific Mega Sceptile, other than Keon Spy abusing Mega Sceptile's Lightning Rod ability by using Discharge from his Heliolisk in order to power it up. However, we do know that overall in 2015, thanks to an analysis article by Serapice, Sceptile can outspeed threats such as Mega Salamence and Choice Scarf Landorus Therian, depending on natures. Unfortunately though, it lacked Draco Meteor and has to rely on Dragon Pulse for its Dragon Stab. And in Gen 6, the Grass and Dragon coverage is pretty mediocre. As for weaknesses, Mega Sceptile hates Talonflame and Trick Room very much. And as for the 2016 meta, it seems to be useful for absorbing electric moves similar to Raichu, and can outspeed and take out both Primal Kyogre and Mega Rayquaza with its stabs, though its frailness can make it a liability to other powerful Pokemon in the 2016 meta. And that's it. So how good was Sceptile actually? It was pretty below average if we're being honest. It's got a really unique spot as a fast attacking grass type, but maybe what we've learned is that that archetype doesn't really work unless your name is Superior. The only Pokemon we've seen make it to overuse with something close to that are Shaman, who's a legendary, Roserade, who's a spiker, and Kartana in Gen 7, who's disgustingly powerful. Grass is a type that lends itself better to support, usually, which struggles mightily to achieve much as a stab typing. In early generations, a boosting move could have potentially made Sceptile a real threat, as its attacking move pool has always been great, but it still has nothing to show there, having to rely on boosts from berries, evolutions, and abilities. Fast and frail can be successful, but here, it just wasn't. But hey, at least it's pretty good in Pokken, I think. Thanks for watching, everyone, and as always, if you liked the video and you want to see more, be sure to subscribe to False Swipe Gaming for more weekly Pokemon content, and of course, as I always say, comment on what Pokemon you want to see next. Also, thank you so much to our patrons for continued support of our videos, and thank you to everyone else watching as well. And follow my crew on social media, as usual, and that's all I got. See you next time, everyone.